Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've got a lot of questions submitted already, as you can see, but if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to submit any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, we usually have a bunch of SEOs live on the call as well, not just the four of us. So feel free to share your perspectives. I think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours is that there's loads of people trying to help each other out. So please continue to do that. Like every week, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Morning.
Hi, hello. I just want to say it's really good to be back. So we had a week out. Mike was on hollybobs or holidays, and I'm really glad to be back. So yeah, as Mike said, I am Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs on Twitter or X. I'm the founder of Turn Global, which is a remote digital marketing consultancy business. We have a base in Barcelona and we have a base in Brisbane, and we help clients in the fintech, finance, and SaaS industries. We work in SEO, of course, SEO office hours, but we also help them with social media and event and webinars. And today I'm really pleased to say that we have David and Abby as our special guests. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. We have 25 guests, one of our largest so far. If you could say where you're dialing in from. So far we have dialing in from Pakistan, the UK, Spain, Switzerland, I think India as well. Oh, just saw another one, London for John. Yes, that's London town. So actually we've got a few more people joining now. So welcome, Simon. Thanks for coming. John, Simon, Uzair, Walid, Glory, Zoya, Oluya, Emily, Amina, Albert. So many of you. Thank you for joining us today. Jael, Ikra, Ian, Jordan. We've also got Nishant and Benjamin. And thank you everyone for watching us from home that are watching the recording. As I said, I'm really pleased to have two great special guests today. We have Carrasco Pamies. He is dialing in from Barcelona as well. And he is a freelance SEO product manager, leveraging his knowledge and experience in web positioning, growth, development, business strategies to help companies with their tech SEO, their content SEO, and strategic SEO. He is also an active member of Search Barcelona. He came to our event last week and has been to a few other events, so thank you very much. And he is also, outside of what he's doing there, he's also served as a CEO of a Spanish PR and link building tool company, which he founded and later sold, so entrepreneur at heart. And he's also a prolific content creator, and he produces audio, video, and written content. He's got a newsletter, which we'll share in the chat. So please sign up there, and then you can follow some of the updates as well that are happening. I will share his LinkedIn profile with you here as well. Welcome, David. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor. And I must say the newsletter is in Spanish, but everybody's welcome to join in. Happy to share it. And really happy to be part of the community Search Barcelona. I like Search, I like Barcelona very much.
Oh, thank you very much. So I will just ask, how often do you send the newsletter out, actually?
Every Wednesday.
Okay, great. I'll write that in here. Thank you very much, Abby Webb, for joining us today. Abby is the head of search and content at Base Creative, which is a B Corp certified digital marketing agency. She specializes in all things Google and is a core part of the search and content team. She also has a strong background in copywriting, content strategy, and paid search campaigns for client partners and internal marketing efforts. A very interesting fun fact about Abby is that she created her first website at age 9. So that's very early to start working, Abby.
It was a personal project, yeah.
You seem also very busy because you're an advocate for women in marketing. You're also a member of the Professional Copywriters Network. You're an avid reader and as well, of course, a Mad Men enthusiast and a coffee connoisseur. And it seems like you've been reading quite a lot of good biographies recently as well, you mentioned yesterday.
I am. I currently am reading, for any West Wing fans, I'm just going to plug someone's book that's not mine. What's next? It's good. So there we go.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. I will share Abby's LinkedIn profile here. And thank you very much for joining us today. And if anyone has any questions for our special guest, please do write in the chat and we'll be answering the questions today. And thank you also for everyone joining. And already Gloria says she's from the Philippines, so that's quite far east. So we have actually from up to, I think, 8 hours or 9 hours difference. So I just wanted to say thank you. You said morning, everyone, with the Google update. So we had just been talking about this Google update yesterday, all of us. So very interesting that it happened yesterday night. And I think, David, you spotted that one and mentioned it to Mike and was in the Signal newsletter. So we'll see what happens really with that. I'll pass you back to Mike now.
Great. We'll just crack on because the first question's relevant. It's out of date, so I'm going to make it in date as well. So I'll just start by reading it out. This was the original question. We're planning to roll out several updates to our website. The question is, should we push these live before Google's core update, or would it be better to hold off until the update is announced and fully rolls out? I'm concerned about the risk of Google not picking up on the changes if we implement them too early. What's the best approach to ensure Google captures everything? So as Joe just mentioned, that this was a few days ago, this question, and obviously yesterday a new update was announced. So along with this question for future updates, I was going to add, should they make the changes whilst the core update is rolling out? What are people's thoughts? Who would like to kick off? Joe, go for it. Oh, you're on mute.
Excuse me. I was multitasking at the same time. With any update, I would say the first thing to do is to not panic because these updates happen quite a lot. If you're already doing everything that you can and you're adhering to the best guidelines, the best practices, in theory, you should have nothing to worry about. But what I would also say is these Google updates do remind us of the fact that SEO is a very important part of the marketing strategy. It is a very important marketing channel. And if we don't have enough resources dedicated to help SEO, whether you're working, mostly this happens if you're client side, then these type of updates are a bit of a wake-up call to the wider business. And perhaps it might be a bit of time to, might be the time to let's analyze how our websites are performing and let's dedicate resources to this marketing channel as we do with the other ones. So that's my little recommendations for the Google updates. But first one is let's not panic and let's assess what's happening with our website, if something does happen or not. But you can check Google Search Console. I was going to say Google Webmaster Tool, Google Search Console.
So David, imagine you're this person and you are about to launch a ton of changes to your website and then Google announces an update. What do you do? Do you make the changes or do you hold off? What are your thoughts?
I would pray. I would start praying. But I think, first of all, I would wait if the update is happening now, because that way you can measure exactly the changes at what actually affects the site. So I would wait till the update finally rolls up, and then I would make the changes, of course. I would say that in the official documentation about the updates, they change some things, like how long does it take to see an effect in search results. And they say some changes can take effect in some days, but some of them you have to wait till the next update. So you have to bear this in mind.
Great. Abby, do you have any thoughts?
I think it depends on the size of the update you want to make as well to really judge whether you want to hold off. I don't know. I think I'm a kind of a person, I've got like Shaun of the Dead in my head. Let's go to the Winchester, have a pint and wait for it all to blow over kind of approach with the update. But also, it's a small enough update. I don't think you should let the core updates hold you back in terms of updating your website. But maybe if it's something bigger and you're a little bit more nervous, maybe hold off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I guess it depends on how significant the changes are. That if you're just updating the design or just changing a few bits, I wouldn't worry too much and I would do it. But I'd be quite concerned about, say, moving domains or anything like that. during this period. I guess one of the things that I was thinking about as well is that you also won't know what has made the change. So if you see a difference in your website, you won't necessarily know if it's the changes you've made or if it's because of the updates. So sometimes it's quite nice. But I think people have said in the chat, if it's a case that's really good for users, then it makes sense to do it. But yeah, I would be a little bit worried if it's like a really significant change. I personally would probably wait, but a month's quite a long time. That's what it was reported in a search engine journal for a month. So if you're really excited about a rebrand and stuff like that, and you're like, do we hold off? I get that it would be quite frustrating. Joe, is there anything in the chat?
There is quite a lot, actually. We have the whole, it depends, of course. Thank you for everyone. C was talking about keep your eyes on your SEO project visibility before you worry about the domain. So if you have it within your platform, a SaaS platform, if you're monitoring that, look at that. And also Simon saying, ask what's best for your site visitors. If a core update is going to affect your site, you may be maybe over optimizing. We also have it depends. Another Simon saying, I wouldn't wait. We don't know what happens in the update anyway, and they're so often nowadays, and it's a completely ambient thing by now. Maybe make the updates and ignore Google's. Maybe if there's something that you wanted to go back to this question, if there's something that you had wanted to do for a while, Simon's suggesting to go and do that. And Steve's saying, if you need to measure the performance of your new project, then a core update could affect that. And we've also had comments saying that I push when you're ready. So when you're ready for your website, search changes all the time anyway. So make sure that you're not just measuring SEO changes, but also user activity as well. Wow, lots of comments. Another one's, John, you're saying go for it. If the site crashes, you can blame the update. And John also says he used to grow up in Winchester too. Good place for a pint. Yeah, I love Supernatural, the Winchester Boys. Such a good show. Walid's talking about what's wrong if we are updating anything within Google guidelines and why should the update hurt? Yeah, good point, Walid. Should be brave now. And if it hurts, you can hold next time. I would say summary seems to be like, just go for it. But record the changes. Maybe use also some screen grabs first and then just push it live.
Did you notice in the documentation, there was a change? I've been saying for a long time around the top 100 movies, and that's changed to your top 20 restaurants instead. You guys are all nodding. You saw that as well.
Yeah, so that, for example, they say that you made the list, the 20 restaurants, and maybe your friend asked for pet accommodations. So they talk about the search personalization too. So that's something we have to keep in mind too, that these factors over the search results.
Great. Okay. Does anybody want to say anything else on the core update, or should we move on? I guess it's so early. It's only just launched. The next few weeks, people might have some more questions around it.
I think that would be good. Maybe we can see what happens in the next few weeks. But actually had a few more comments anyway. Joseph was saying is, what was your first step when you noticed a significant change in your rankings following a core update? So maybe you can see if it's happened in the past, what you actually did. We also have a good comment saying, you can take any credit for the wins, but give blame to the search engines if obviously it doesn't work. Maybe, again, this is your opportunity.
I think that was a joke.
Well, everyone's saying just do it.
Okay, if we pick up on what Joseph has said, so let's imagine you have noticed a change in your organic traffic, in rankings or average positions. What would be your first step? Who would like to kick off? Yeah, go for it, Joe.
Okay. If you have noticed a change in rankings, this is why I think it's always really good to create benchmarks and have a really solid plan of what you're actually going to do and then what you did when. So you can go back and see what changes you made and then what the impact was. So if I've seen a significant change in rankings following a core update, I would have reviewed what I actually have been doing in terms of my overall strategy. Had I been writing too much about a specific topic? Are those the topics or the amount of keywords that have seen a drop? What pages have seen a drop? What's also happening in the market as well? Because I wouldn't think that you just focus always on your own site. See about other people's sites. Of course, we've got lots of different tools out there that you can look and monitor and see how are those sites in your field or those that are ranking for the same terms, how are they doing and what have they done recently? If you are monitoring your competitors regularly, then you should be able to notice and remember what they have done and if they've changed anything. So I would go back and look at those points.
Great.
I would say,
Okay.
sorry, that I'm all for a change log as well with these kind of things, with whatever it is. I tend to do them for organic changes, paid, and they are so helpful to have in any context, not just in terms of core updates and changes. But I think sometimes unless you've done one really specific change, it's really hard to always tell what the specific is that's causing the decrease in rankings. So because I think for many websites that we work on, it's not just one change, we'll make it at a time. There's a business need to do quite a few in one go, so it can be quite hard to isolate it. But hopefully a change log can maybe help with that a little bit in terms of figuring out what could have caused it.
David, do you have any thoughts on first things you would do if you noticed a drop in traffic or rankings?
I think I would try to collect data in 3 different levels in a general overview of the site, how the drop affect the overall of the site. Then I would try to isolate clusters like this for URLs or sectors of the site or even keywords. And then I would try to check if there are some URLs most affected, and then I would try to analyze those in depth. So maybe then I would try to collect this data, and then I would go for it and go in depth with more information.
Great, amazing. One thing I've noticed in the past when there's been a core update is sometimes clients can obsess over analytics and rankings and so on. And I think you've just you've got to wait really before you make any major decisions or changes. That's one thing I would say, rather than monitoring it on an hourly or daily basis, because chances are in most cases, I don't really see much of an impact to the websites I work on when it comes to this. If anything, it's better. So I wouldn't obsess over that.
One other point actually that Simon made, which is very good, he says to look at the SERPs, because often the significant changes can be around like the featured snippets, carousels being switched on or off for a term. So we saw that before, where people had seen drops or increases in clicks and impressions because of this.
I think a good point here is if you check the SERPs, you can check also the search intent. We have seen the last updates, the e-commerce related searches have changed a lot. So you have to have that in mind, that maybe what you were ranking, you cannot rank right now because the search intent have changed.
Great. I love Simon's comment there about also your competitor may have employed Simon, which may mean your site will have been pushed down. I love that. Okay, let's keep going. The last SEO office hours, which was 2 weeks ago, I've had a couple of people reach out to me and say how they really liked the honesty and openness around doing SEO for cannabis in markets where it's legal. We covered that question. And both Preeti and Chris had the experience to properly answer. I had lots of feedback about that. And somebody had a follow-up question, which is they had listened that week, and they basically wanted to know if a person feels uncomfortable with the keywords their company/clients wants to target, what should they do? Anybody been in this situation before, or what would you do if you are in this situation? Abby, go for it.
It's definitely not recently a situation that I've been in. I've mostly worked agency side. So maybe if you're obviously client side, it's very different because you have to do that. My opinion on this though, and it's great, especially if you have the luxury of choosing the work that you work on, is I feel you do better work generally when you like what you are working on, you understand what you're working on, or you're keen to learn more about it. So I feel that if you are uncomfortable with it, then it's not fair on yourself to work on it. It depends ethically, morally, what that is and what the topic is. But also for the client or the business, it's sometimes not fair on them either, for someone who's not comfortable to work on it, to be working on it. Again, I appreciate that people have luxury to make those decisions and others don't, but I don't have much more experience of that personally, but I feel like it's a loose situation both sides if you're not comfortable.
David, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Heavy. I think if you don't agree or you don't feel comfortable with the keywords on the sector, you won't put your heart on it on your work, so you won't deliver actually. And I think if you don't work comfortable with the project or the work ethic, you have to prioritize. If you can, as Avi said, if you have the luxury to choose, there's something you have to think about it. And just, I don't know, it's like other choices you made in life, like the clothes you wear, the food you eat. You have to feel and you have to live with it. So I think the lesson here is, if you can sleep during the night about your decision, that's the most important thing to have in mind.
Joe, what about you? Any thoughts?
I would just say we have one life, so if you don't feel comfortable with what you're doing at work, you have to live with that. So plan some time to look for, I would say, another project to work on.
Great. I think one of the benefits of SEOs is that we know how to find out this stuff before we start working for somebody. We've got all the tools available where we can see what keywords a website ranks for, and that mostly comes from the vibe you get also from the company and the products that they're selling. I don't imagine if they sell ethical products, they're going to want to rank for something really unethical. Yeah, I guess we're quite lucky that we can work this out rather than it being a complete shock when you start working on a project. But I totally agree with Abby and David. I guess you and Joe, sorry, leave you out there, Joe. Yeah, not everybody does have the luxury. To be honest, we had a kind of a similar sort of situation last year where I think it's okay to say this. We fired our first client, which I've never had to do before. And it was quite a financial risk and loss to myself. But actually, it just felt really unethical, the project and so on. And I didn't anticipate that. And no keywords or anything would have told me that. So I guess I have been in this situation. And sometimes I guess you just have to take the hit and think, like David was saying, that's not really how we want to be and make money and so on. I think one of the things with SEO, like Abby was saying, is you just do so much better if you're passionate about the product, company, service, what they're about, their values. And so I'm sure somebody else went and did a really good job for them, but I just wasn't. Joe, do we have any other comments?
Yeah, we do actually. Just one from Joseph saying that interesting what we're discussing, and wants to know, what approach would you take if a client insists on targeting keywords that seem misleading to users? It's a good one. I think if it's misleading to users, maybe companies like Google, when they do updates and stuff, maybe they might not rank that site as high. But that's just another question. If anyone has anything else that they'd like to add on that one. What approach do you take if a client insists on targeting keywords that seem misleading to their users?
Sometimes things like search volumes or can be helpful in those situations, obviously depending on what the keyword is. Generally, I also find talking about user intent in those conversations as well, obviously will be really helpful, and that's where search results are a great place to show that. And I think if you can combine the two, a bit of data and some visualization of what that landscape looks like, hopefully you'll be in a good position to encourage them to go elsewhere. And if you can then back that up with what you'd like to go for instead, and show how their website, their business fits into that better, then hopefully it's interesting though, because I think it's always a balance that as SEOs we always have to consider is what the client wants to do versus what we think is right to do. And it's not that they're wrong, it's that they don't fully understand the landscape, and we have to always approach conversations with them in that way, that we need to educate them. They know their business, but we know this. So it's just how do you get that balance? And I think data and visuals tend to work quite well.
Do you have any thoughts on this one, David?
I think that this goes out of the way of the SEO in this way, because you work to match the search intent with the product, the content, or whatever you're delivering. So if you are misleading the user, the experience, the result won't help you in any way. It's difficult to make them sometimes understand that it would be hard for the business at the end, because you are not delivering actually the result the user is expecting. So that will hurt you.
I just think, what's the point if a business is doing SEO and they want to sell products and services, or I guess if they're selling advertising, maybe it's a bit different, but if they're there, if they want to make money and grow it, all of that sort of stuff, what's the point in trying to mislead a client or customer? They then buy the product and they're going to be really unhappy and they're going to probably want a refund. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I think I'd rather focus my time on the stuff that's actually going to help them and not mislead people. Joe, have we had any comments, or do you have any thoughts?
We have a lot of other comments. I quite like what Natalia said, is we all had a client at one point that thinks that they can cherry pick the keywords like in a supermarket. Simon's saying it's highly unlikely conversions will happen on these misleading keywords. So I think in that case, the data will say it all. But however, he's sure that the media sites often target anyway misleading keywords to pull traffic in, as they only need advert views, hence the clickbait headlines. Amina is saying presenting data like search volumes and user intent analysis can be a powerful way to illustrate why those keywords may not be the best choice. You can also use visuals like search result examples to highlight how the current landscape aligns or doesn't with the client goals. So quite a lot of comments. Monse is also saying, find the reason out, like why maybe the client wants to go with certain keywords as opposed to the ones that you're looking for. So yeah, quite a lot here. And there's a lot of chat, and we've only done just 2 questions. So I just wanted to say, for those that are watching us not live and you want to join us live, sign up to the Good Signals office hours. I've shared a link there and it'll be in the description, so you can join us live. And everyone that's here, thank you very much for coming. If you want to be a special guest, we are running this is our 37th SEO office hours. We are running this. We don't have an end date yet, but if you'd like to be in the show, please sign up there as well. I've shared the link in the chat.
Great. Okay. Next question. I was just thinking on the misleading question, or the misleading keywords question. One thing that I find actually is sometimes people obsess around certain keywords and there's no volume there. And that's something that I come across quite a lot, where it's, oh, we really want to rank for this term. How are we doing for this term? But nobody's searching for it, but okay. And it's just part of that is just pleasing the client, which doesn't make sense. Okay. Next question. I'm looking to improve internal linking for a car dealership website. The most important pages are the model landing pages and the vehicle search pages. I'm going to add internal links to those pages from the blog posts or from their blog posts. But I'm wondering if I should link out to other relevant blog posts as well. I read somewhere that you should only link up from supporting content. But I'm thinking that, so basically what they're basically saying is that they have these product pages or category pages that are important, and they link to them from supporting blog posts, and they're wondering, is it okay to link out because they've read somewhere that they shouldn't do that? Anybody have any thoughts on that? David, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's a good approach to create supporting content, like you're working a cluster, but I wouldn't limit myself regarding internal linking, because if it's something relevant for the user, it would be helpful. I think it would be a good user experience overall. So I wouldn't limit myself there.
Yeah.
What about you, Abby?
100%, yeah, agree. I think the way are people reading articles at that stage rather than on the product pages anyway, it's because maybe they're not ready yet to take some action. Obviously, buying a car is quite a big action to take. The related content is really important at that stage to be building up the trust and authority of the dealership themselves, and absolutely should be linking to both the models where they're relevant and also related content that really gives you a sense of what the dealership's knowledge and helps you make a decision ultimately. I don't drive, so I don't actually know what the car buying process is like, but if I was in that, I would probably want to read more, and I think I would find it really interesting to see reviews and things like that, especially if the dealership don't just sell like one, I'm doing the car words wrong, don't sell one brand of car. There might be a few options, and therefore you want to read more related content that talks about best hatchback, the best EV, those kind of things. And I think that building up that content is really important. I think one of the more important things here is if you're going to link to model pages and related content, I suppose that's where things like good anchor text comes in a little bit more. So there's a bit more context behind those links that are a little bit more helpful. But that would be my advice from a non-driver but an SEO person.
I actually remember a case study I read some weeks ago that they found out that the user that made more page views, that read more pages, converted more with high ticket products. So that can be related to our question and what Abby was saying.
I'm just saying, as Abby has said, I mean, buying cars, not like, oh, I'm just going to do it, pay all that money. No, it's a lot of information to read and digest. And I really like the related posts that you have on many different websites. But what I would also say is this person saying, I've read somewhere where you should link up But I'm thinking that linking to other relevant posts is a good user experience. Yes, it is a good user experience. Don't think about like this in SEO. Think about if you're buying a car, what would you want to find out? You want to find about, depending on the country, things like the MOT, the tax, the insurance, something for new drivers. In the UK, you insure the person, whereas in Europe, you insure the car. So you really need to look really about other elements around the car. And of course, linking to other pages is good. It's all important. And I think by someone asking this question, perhaps it's also highlights the fact that it can be a bit confusing with SEO because there's different things that people are asking, but internal linking is good. You're not going to get necessarily penalized for interlinking to relevant other areas of the website.
And I think just because you don't link out somewhere doesn't mean that person doesn't still want to know the answer. And personally, I would rather that they find that answer on our website or my client's websites rather than needing to leave and go somewhere else. And sometimes it's quite nice to link out to external websites as well. I think particularly if, Abby, you mentioned reviews, but for example, if there's some sort of independent, I'm just trying to think of a client example that I've got where they've been awarded or measured around their ethics, for example, by an independent website, and actually linking out to that to show where they fit versus other brands makes sense. So yeah, I 100% would. And actually, you don't want to fill your product pages with too much information, because obviously the purpose of those commercial pages is actually to help somebody buy. You don't want to distract with tons and tons of information, and therefore maybe linking out to other resources that explain some of the things where they might have hesitations makes sense to me. Yeah, great. Anything in the chat, Joe, before we go to the next question?
Just was saying that I think you should ensure that your blog posts include internal links to the MLP and the VSP pages. Sorry, I don't need to add pages because we've had it in the VSP and MLP. These are your primary conversion pages, so they should receive the most of this link equity. Monsi is agreeing with you. Keep your users on your site until you need to show more relevant or in-depth content. Yeah, that's great. Loads of chat. Thank you, everyone, for interacting with us.
Something I was going to mention is just obviously they said at the beginning about linking to those commercial pages from supporting blog posts. And I 100% agree with that, because then you're showing those important pages to sort of users. So 100% do that. Okay, next question. I've been told that under GDPR, I need to ask for cookie permissions on my website. Therefore, my year-on-year numbers are now way down, and it's hard to know the exact size of traffic. How do I overcome this barrier? Abby, you were nodding. Are you happy to go with this one?
Part of this, yes, from our client experience, we do a lot of analytics work. So this is a question or an anxiety that I hear quite a lot. I expect there are probably lots of different ways to approach this question anyway. I think an element of what I've been doing at least is almost reframing, not completely, but reframing analytics a little bit as indicative of trends that are happening on the website, because we're never going to get, obviously more than trends, but we're never going to get 100% visibility of every single thing that is taking place on a website if things like cookie banners are in place, which they should be, but they still give us a really strong indication of what's happening. And I think those kind of conversations have helped clients a little bit in terms of not worrying too much about the data they've lost, but making the most of the data that we still collect in terms of understanding what's working and what we should do more or less of. I think we've tried to do some guesstimation of what we've lost as well to help clients. Again, it probably varies a lot, but we have said around maybe anything from like 40 to 60% loss of traffic. So sometimes if they really want to know that or try and make up the difference, trying to calculate something that way since after cookies. But of course, doesn't always work very well when if you're going to expect a huge surge of traffic because you're bringing more campaign activities to the website, things like that. But I think for us, it's just been about reframing the role of analytics post cookie notice.
Great. David, have you got any thoughts?
I think related with what Abby was saying, I think you can focus and compare with different metrics like sales, conversions, organic traffic too. So you can compare those metrics with the overall traffic and see what the trend is.
Great. Joe?
I don't have everything extra to add from me, but then we've got some responses in the chat. So John's saying, stop worrying so much about GDPR. The ICO rarely follows up on a complaint on analytics. It's the ad trackers you need to worry about. Good point. He said also that server-side tracking will help big time. Natalia is saying that log file analytics for the win. So look into that. And Simon also said, oh, I watched a video from a respected marketing expert, not SEO, who dropped a bombshell and said you don't need cookies for GDPR, then said nothing more about it. He says he needs to follow up on that one, as one site we know we are not measuring about 80% of its traffic. Okay, Simon, let us know how you get on about that one. Interesting. We'll be looking out for that next week. Can you give us an answer next week?
Great. So one thing I've done is I just look at compare analytics to Google Search Console, and you can basically see the difference. So that will give you a rough idea in terms of if you've got the cookie banner on, if there's a difference in traffic. One thing that I think is really important is just to always have reminders everywhere in your presentations and stuff. If you're giving reports and so on, you've mentioned that year-on-year traffic is down, to avoid people panicking or jumping to conclusions. So I would just always highlight that, or for organic traffic, we tend to use Google Search Console over analytics, but I get in terms of conversions, you might want to go via analytics. But that's really helped because that information comes from the search results, not the site. Okay, next question. So I'm going to put this question out here and we'll cover it very quickly at the end. Please, can we get a quick nugget from the panelists? This could be in the form of tips, hacks, or trends and tricks for getting content to rank on Google. It could also be their greatest piece of SEO advice ever. So I'll leave that with you. And if anybody also on the call would like to share thoughts, we'll come back to that at the end. And we'll jump on.
I have one quick nugget you can publish on Reddit.
Okay, cool. God, they're all quite juicy questions. Okay, this one. Do you only cover Google SEO or YouTube SEO as well? Any tips on increasing views and subscribers? Joe, you've done lots of kind of YouTube shows and stuff like that. Are you okay to start with this one?
Yes, so just writing out the question.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would say that we can use the example of the Good Signals SEO office hours. We've been discussing this before. And I think with having a show or a series, it's about creating something that people want to hear about. For SEO office hours, really pleases our 37th show, and we keep having more and more people join. I think today we had the maximum 34 participants. We've had it to 44, and we have it from 15 or 16 different countries. We've also seen our subscribers increase on Good Signals, and we've also seen the number of views increase. I think still our biggest one is around up to 6,000 views. So maybe what is the secret of increasing views and subscribers? I think it's, as I said, creating content that people want. So obviously this is not our show. Mike, you were a big fan of the Google SEO office hours, and you asked John if you could take part. And I think the theme of this office hours is really having a safe place to ask questions in SEO. It is a bit confusing. There's lots of different ways, or it depends. We've already seen that a lot today anyway, in regards to the answers. It was your initiative after speaking to John to create this. And I think showing the fact that we're on their 37th episode, that we keep having more and more people come up, we're always getting loads of questions. It shows the fact that people are engaged and there is a demand there. So really, if you want to do a YouTube SEO show or series as part of your strategy, find out what people are asking, find out what's missing in the marketplace, and then fill that gap. And with this platform, we're about having different people coming on the show. I've seen a lot of YouTube shows where they just always have the same host all the time and they don't have guests. It's really important, I feel, to have guests on the show and have their opinion, not just have it from the brand perspective. So those are just a couple of tips from me.
Abby, do you have any thoughts on YouTube SEO? Is that something you guys have done?
Not massively, but I wonder more than anything. I'm going to add my own question or thought is I wonder just generally how many of the good principles we have just of SEO generally apply to YouTube SEO. And I suspect already from what Joe was saying, quite a few. Create content, in obviously video format that satisfies users' demands. So I suspect a lot of it is you can apply the same principles, right?
Yes, that's correct. And also, I didn't mention this, to have the landing page, you might create a landing page for the show. Obviously, within each of the descriptions, we do have the questions as well. It is important to have a transcript. If you were to have that on a website like Moz with their Whiteboard Friday, that's great to have that. And also, we make it easy also for people to sign up and join. So really don't put any barriers for people to follow you. Have it on a show at a time where it's easy for most people to come on. I know 9:30 is a bit early for the US, but we cover a lot of the markets at that time.
David, what about you? Have you done anything with YouTube in terms of SEO?
Not much, really. I just would like to say that maybe when we talk about YouTube, for example, we used to think like SEO for Google, but the algorithm is different. It's like a neural network, and it's more about the user engagement and the retention in platform and so on. You have to have that in mind when working on YouTube SEO. And I totally agree with what Joe said, that search intent, like you have to match it in the thumbnail or the title, for example. You cannot deceive the user. So you have to give them what they're looking for, but then you have to retain them. You have to entertain them too. So they must be the longest time possible there. And then they have to stay in the platform too. So not only in your video, but in the platform too.
Great. Joe, did you put your hand up? That's very polite.
No, I'm just saying, yes, that's so
Oh, I
true.
see.
Stay within the platform, yes.
Yeah, there are obviously some amazing YouTubers out there who manage to get hundreds of thousands of views and stuff like that, and hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Obviously, that office hours, it only has a couple of hundred subscribers, so I don't want to pretend like it's a massive success or anything like that. But I think the thing that I think that's really important with YouTube is that you're consistent, which is something that we've tried to do. Probably shorter videos as well than we do. This wasn't necessarily really about trying to rank for certain terms. I think if we were to do that or want to do that, then I would probably cut the videos up, and rather than just put the whole thing on like we do, optimize things like titles, tags, all of that stuff, and obviously add relevant descriptions and so on. So I think that's what I've noticed when I look at what those popular videos are doing on YouTube. And then there's also things like the thumbnail and so on. And based on some advice, we use a tool called Descript to basically, we upload this video to Descript and remove things like the ums and the your knows and all of that stuff, just to make it a bit choppier and more interesting. And there are actually, I don't think we do it very well, to be honest, because there are loads of other things that we could do. But yeah, I think the most important thing is what is just been said, actually, which is consistency. I think just doing it and learn and change. And I've tried a few different types of videos on YouTube, but I guess you've just got to take the lessons from it. Sorry, somebody's only just joining now, so I'm just adding that they're going to be very disappointed. Okay.
I just wanted,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry,
I wanted to say as well, I think I'm being a bit harsh on the good signals. I think you can allocate as much time as you can for YouTube, and this was something that we wanted to do, and this is something that was a passion of yours to create this, and I think it's done quite well, more than double the YouTube videos, but no, that the subscribers, but that wasn't an objective. I think, yes, as you said, there's a lot more things that we could do, and of course, like top things up and, you know, promote on, do YouTube shorts and also do things on Instagram Reels, but it comes down to also like how much time do you have. I think Natalia's done a great summary here about how to optimize for YouTube. So good title, have a good video thumbnail as well. It does affect your video click-through rate a lot. Also promoting socials, fill in the fields like add descriptions, also add tags as well. You can also review your analytics and see what videos are doing the best and why, and then try and recreate that for your next videos. That's it, sorry, because we have 7 minutes left.
There was a really good podcast episode actually from the marketing manager of Diary of a CEO, but they've got like a team of 50 and they're doing shorts and they're doing podcasts each day, sorry, 2 podcasts a week and all of that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in learning more about YouTube SEO, that's quite an interesting resource. For what it's worth, in terms of the views, we also do spend about £1 a day on AdWords as well. So it's not totally all organic. So I don't want you to think it is.
Maybe one last thing I would tip could be like you could learn a little bit of storytelling. It depends also about the type of channel you have, but maybe storytelling and some editing could help you there.
Great. Okay, let's jump on to our nuggets. So it's in the form of tips, hacks, tricks to get content ranking better on Google, or your greatest piece of SEO advice ever. Abby, can we start with you? Is that all right?
Of course. For me, I would say I did a lot of my SEO formative learning by building my own website. Not the 9-year-old front page thing. That was great. But more recently, yes, I think when I really started getting into wanting to go, what's this thing? Oh, okay, how do we do this? And these were just things based on things I enjoyed. I used to have a book blog, RIP, a story for another day, but it helped me learn how to write content. It did pretty well, but one, I learned WordPress, and two, I learned what tends to work, and I had quite niche book interests, so it was a bit of a niche SEO project. More recently, I have other sort of websites on the side with other passions that I have. My sort of SEO background is very content driven, so that's where I learn what types of posts tend to work well. I think even things like internal linking and those kind of things, and you can run your own experiments. So I would say sometimes client work doesn't give you the freedom to do that, but your personal projects are a great place to really learn the ropes and test and not spend someone else's money making mistakes in those tests. So that's my recommendation.
Amazing advice. David, what about you? Hacks, tricks to ranking better, or greatest SEO advice?
I think I like to emphasize something, because usually when we do the research while preparing a briefing to create content, we go straight to the search, to the results, what's ranking. But by doing so, we might fall into the trap of repeating the same content, the same things. We are not bringing anything new to the table. And I think it's very important to consider the concept of information gain. So what are you going to contribute that's different, something that's not already ranking? That's why I also believe that talking to people who aren't as involved in the SEO process or even in the sector itself can help you. So would you ask people what they would expect to find when searching for something, and then start working from there?
Great. Joe, what about you? Any nuggets?
One nugget is do not give up or try a different approach. So for example, if we say the YouTube, you want to do a show and maybe what you're doing is not working and you think I could still do it well, try a different approach. As we were talking about Good Signal. So this was the third YouTube show that I've run, and I think this has performed the best. And it's because I've changed a few things from what I learned at the previous two. It's good to test, but also if you want to persevere with something and the area where you're going is not working, try a different approach.
Amazing. And then we've got our very final question that we're going to try and slip in, which is our regular question. What are you most excited about in terms of SEO at the moment? David, what are you most excited about? We've only got 2 minutes, by the way. So sorry, it's going to have to be a bit shorter than usual.
I guess right now the update. And I think the business related of Google and Alphabet, because we have recently the result of the trial. So I would like to see more about it.
Great. Abby, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I'm excited that businesses seem to be taking it a lot more seriously now. The landscape for that's completely changed, and I think we're starting to see some real investment in it. So that's good, and I'm excited for it.
Amazing. Joe, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I'm always excited about events. So we actually have International Search Summit November 14th in Barcelona. Turn Global is a sponsor, so there's a 10% off. So I'm going to share the link here and the code so you can buy yourself a ticket to the best international search event in Europe, in Barcelona.
Amazing. Great. Thank you so much to everybody for joining live on the call. Thanks for those watching on YouTube afterwards. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to those that submitted questions. And Joe, thank you so much for co-hosting. We'll be back next week. We'll see you on Friday. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you to our special guests and our guests coming in and dialing in today.
Great.
Thank
Bye.
you.